Dr. Ronald Troxel is a two-time Bethel graduate who has devoted his life and career to discovering God through the linguistic building blocks of the Bible. He has published 5 books focused on the Old Testament, along with numerous articles, book chapters, and papers that have spanned his decades-long career in academia and biblical scholarship. He is the former chair of Hebrew and Semitic Studies and professor emeritus at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He has also served in pastoral and leadership roles at numerous churches in the Upper Midwest. Bethel Seminary is proud to honor Ronald Troxel as our 2023 Alumnus of the Year. Who is Ron? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, that's something I've been working on for 72 years, but I was born into the home of an American Baptist minister and his wife. They were very much a ministry team. I began at Bethel in the fall of 1969 on the old campus. When I got to my senior year, I had just returned from going to Scandinavia, but it was there I was really confronted with the question of what my faith meant to me. I really felt a call to study, and I came back and loaded up on all the theology and biblical study courses I could. And then the next year after graduation, I went over the hill, as we used to refer to it, to Bethel Seminary. That was a very enriching experience. You learn the questions that most people never think about asking.
So your work was mostly intellectual. I'm always curious about people who are professors in biblical studies. What does it look like to sustain your faith while most of your work is done up in the head knowledge?
I can't have faith without the head knowledge. They go together. After seminary, I entered a pastorate. That pastorate is when I realized that this probably isn't ultimately the nature of my call, because most pastors, I realize, probably don't spend the first 2 hours of their morning every day reviewing Greek and Hebrew. After 2.5 years in that church, I resigned and entered the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I was hired initially to teach an evening course for a semester. I loved doing that. And over time really grew into a full-time position, and then I became tenured.
So you're involved in languages. That's your primary area of focus, is studying biblical language?
Language as a way of accessing the text, yes. Languages in the ancient world developed not as a cultural piece. They developed in service of the reigning king. And you can only understand Hebrew within that broader context. My falling in love with languages was very much related to wanting to understand Scripture. I found no tension teaching in a state school. I had students that took the course because they wanted it as background for going into law, to understand jurisprudence in the ancient world. I had students that came from Christian backgrounds. I had students who were curious about the Bible but hadn't had exposure to it before. So there was always that kind of tension, I suppose. And by the way, that got dealt with a lot in office hours. I just had wonderful conversations in office hours.
I was wondering about that.
With students who came from a faith tradition or no faith tradition, not just about the content of the class, but about their faith. So it really was a very fertile and enjoyable career. In a way, a type of ministry that I suspect would not be suspected of somebody teaching in a state school.